Well, good morning. Welcome to the road trip. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion once again. And I'll tell you what, these markets just continue to shock people, I think, and surprise just with the performance that we've seen. And you look back to Friday, we hit all-time highs in the Dow. We had it in the NASDAQ, just an incredibly strong day. As a matter of fact, the Dow was running to the upside. It felt strong. And in the final hour or so, we added even a little bit more, finished up about 250 points. That's a strong day once again, as the markets just continue to hang over that 30,000 level, which I don't know that anybody could have imagined that if you go back in time, even just a couple of months ago. But going all the way back to March, there's just no way that people could have possibly thought that we'd have this kind of a rally back. But we are, and we're having it right now. As a matter of fact, the NASDAQ really was strong as well, finished up about 87 points. So the combination of those two and new highs is just something that I think is amazing. And I'm a little bit shocked by. You look at the S&P trading at 3,700. I recall going back in time a little bit, and there were some bulls out there. Tom Lee was one of those bulls, and Mike from Morgan Stanley, good man, Mike Wilson, who's done a great job as well. Tony Dwyer's done a great job in terms of trying to help navigate people through a really difficult time and staying bullish when many others were actually calling for markets to go a lot lower. So we are seeing this broad participation. As a matter of fact, on Friday, when you look across at so many different areas that were pulling on the markets and lifting them higher, absolutely energy, it really did stand out. I mean, some of these numbers that I'm looking at from Friday are extraordinary. Occidental up about 13%, Diamondback up 12%, Devon was up 9%, Apache was up 10%, Marathon Oil was up 10%. Gives you a pretty good idea. So you look over at the XLE, it's primarily the big integrated names, the Chevrons of the world, and Exxon and BP, and that was up 5.5%. Then you look over at the services, the OIH, I call them the beta names. We look at that was up over 7.5 or about 7.5%. The XOP up over 8%. So it gives you a pretty good shot at what was going on in energy, but that wasn't the entire story. You can add into that the financials that were up about 1.25%. You got the industrials that were up 1%. So the broad move across. And in the industrial space, there were certain names that were rocking and rolling on Friday. Caterpillar was one of those names. Dow was one of those names. Cat was up over 4%. Honeywell was up about 2%. So those industrial type names were moving to the upside. That was impressive. And then, of course, I bring it up all the time because I find it just to be fascinating. When people look at the NASDAQ, they always just think tech. You have to think semiconductors as well. And the semiconductors just continue to go higher and higher and set new 52-week highs. We'll talk about today in a second. But when I look back to Friday and you look at Skyworks, you look at Broadcom, and you look at the nice broad swath of different names that keep on leading. It wasn't necessarily NVIDIA. This time it was Micron that was up 5%. It was Qualcomm that was up over 5%. So you get the idea of just how much movement we were seeing. And then in the material space, that was moving to the upside as well. So we've seen strength in so many different areas. And I think this broad participation, it isn't new. I want to just keep emphasizing that because I heard last week a couple of guys on the halftime report and other places talking about the fact that, oh, wow, we're starting to see this. That's not the truth. It started even before November. We started to see this move. Financials started to move. Industrial started to move. And this broader participation away from just the high flyers. And when I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean the semiconductors or the Apples or the Netflix. And yeah, they paused a little bit after making some unbelievable moves to the upside. But you look over at biotech, you look at the semiconductors and the broad side of the semiconductors in terms of leadership and the fact that it just keeps on rolling over. And that's very healthy. And I think that's a big part of what we were seeing. We saw a little bit of a pause in certain names on Friday as well. Despite the fact that we were rocking and rolling to the upside, Moderna took a little bit of a pause. Boeing took a little bit of a pause. Apple, Ulta, Home Depot, all paused back a little bit. So they weren't as much participating. Well, a lot of that has flipped around a little bit today. And we look at the Dow today, we come in the early pre-market down about 100 points, started to get a little bit better. And then we drifted back once we got into the trading day and started to get a little bit deeper into the trading day, call it 45 minutes in or so, down about 150, 170 points on the Dow. No big deal. When you consider where the Dow is, still record levels and still up above 30,000. So it's just a bit of a pause of a day. And I just took a glance. We are starting to see the markets actually come back a little bit, now down about 130 points on the Dow. But biotechs and semis absolutely are driving the NASDAQ. So when we're looking over at the Dow and that's down 100 plus points, look over at the NASDAQ, it's up 50 plus points. And why is that? So biotech definitely leading. Today we're getting a little more participation now again on the positive side from Moderna. So we've had the ups and the downs and a little bit of the pausing, but the overall move obviously in many of these biotechs, and I bring it up all the time. That's another area. You're constantly seeing new highs in specific areas, sectors of the marketplace, and biotech is definitely one of those, along with the semiconductors, where we've seen new high after new high after new high, and it's been a really impressive run. Crude pulled back a little bit today, and that's been part of the draw on why we've seen the markets actually slipping back a little bit. Energy definitely taking a bit of a hit today, down about 2.25%, at least it was just a little while ago. Financials coming back just a little bit, only down about 1%, but you look over and you see Chevron, you see Hess, you see a lot of those big beta names pulling back a little bit today. When you look over at Apache and Concho and Valero and some of those names pulling back a little bit, nothing huge, but that's pulling on the markets certainly and affecting the S&P to some degree, and also the Dow when you look at something like a Chevron. So silver and gold both a little bit higher as well. So what are we seeing in the markets right now in terms of the derivatives? By the way, we did get underneath 20 on Friday on the VIX, closed above that, but we got underneath 20. You know how much volume, and I bring this up all the time, 39.2 million contracts trading on Friday. And what were some of the leadership names? Well, Apple took the lead once again. It's not always been there, though. We've seen other names take the lead and actually outperform in terms of volume. But Apple, 1.34 million contracts were trading on Friday. Tesla, a little over 1 million contracts. And then NIO, close to about 900,000 contracts. AMD, about 670,000 contracts. Think about that AMD, because I'm going to be coming back to that in just a second. So when we look at the NASDAQ today and we see that a little bit stronger, you see Tesla, you see Facebook, you see Netflix, all up over 2% to the upside, Moderna as well to the upside. So you've got a nice a group of names that are starting to lead the NASDAQ to the upside. And everybody seems to want to jump on this. Well, and I bring it up all the time because I think it's kind of ridiculous when they're talking about growth versus value and all the rest of this. I think you have to just look at it as certain parts of the market that are catching up a little bit, but that doesn't mean we aren't still seeing strength in a lot of these various names, because we absolutely are. So I was looking at some of the unusual option activity that we had today, and we already had a little, I think it was 10 or 11 unusuals by the time we got 45 minutes into the day. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of just how much of a run we're already seeing, and some huge volumes. And we are seeing repeat hitting of unusual option activity from days and days and days. And over the last couple of weeks, continuous names that are hitting one day after another after another. And that's something I'll bring this one up. The unusual that we are seeing today, it's back into AMD. Now, I've talked about this one for the last couple of weeks, so you've heard me talking about it. And over the last, since we got into December, we've had multiple hits in AMD. And today, once again, stock trading about 93.5, somewhere in that range. And we had the Decembers of this week. So very, very short time frame. Always remember that. This week, December 11th, we've got the 102 calls, and about 12,000 of those were bought for 50 to 60 cents. So as I've said for a while now, multiple weeks, it sure looks like people think that AMD is going to be in the triple digits. It sure looks like folks are positioning for AMD to maybe break up and through that $100 level. We've seen the $100 strike calls being bought. Now we're seeing these 102. So a lot of activity that we've been seeing that's been going on for quite a while. I know we've got some Q&A. We always love to do a little bit of that, and then we're going to run. But let's see what some of the questions are that I'm seeing. Still waiting for you to drive through Arkansas I-40. Well, Steve Cohen, nice to see you. Yeah, that's a fun ride, man. We've been on this great trip, my wife and I. It's awesome. We've had stop after stop after stop. I did last week on Friday. We actually were at Tulsa Stadium, the football stadium, up at the press box. That's where I was doing the halftime report. Had an issue with the signal later on, so unfortunately, but that was really a lot of fun. I got a lot of surprises for you coming in the future in terms of halftime report, the 5 p.m. shows on CNBC. But that should be pretty exciting. We've got a great trip in front of us. We actually left Tulsa, came down and got down here to Dallas, had a great time here so far this weekend. Then we moved down to Houston yesterday. In Houston, now I got to tell you, I'm at the Houston Racket Club. Somebody hooked me up with a deal. I don't want to say exactly who it was, but one of the Market Rebellion folks, and I really, really appreciate it. It's been absolutely a treat for us, my wife and I, and this is as beautiful a club as you could possibly imagine. So we're really having a great time there. In terms of the markets themselves, we've been watching so many different areas, as I say, that have been continuously moving to the upside, and I think adding to why we are seeing a nice broad participation that is a much healthier move to the upside. So keep that in mind as you get through the trading day. There's a lot of activity that's already started. We have a great round table later on today. We are not having any guests. It's just going to be Market Rebellion. It's going to be a round table. We give you guys an opportunity to ask questions, whether it's of John or myself or any of the team. You get an opportunity to try to pick our brains as we've gone through the day. It's going to be really exciting. I can't wait. We'll be riding and hopefully get a spot maybe to pause for a little while. But if not, I'll be sitting right where I am right now. Folks, have a great day of trading. Look forward to seeing all of you later on this afternoon at the Market Rebellion Roundtable. Take care.